What's good, y'all? It's Wander, and we're here for a special kind of Overwatch video. We're going to be playing a little bit of quick play today, while we're also going to be talking about some changes in Overwatch from the main game back when it was released in 2016 to when they changed it to Overwatch 2 around 2022. I think it was 2022, 2023, and then the reversion back to Overwatch 1, the original, and kind of their steps on kind of pulling back some of their bad changes, adding more of the changes that they used to have back in the day. So we're going to go over all of that. Just get this match loaded up real quick. Show us my damage. So, I think that this is a pretty good place to start off here. I'm not a fan of the 5v5. Now, this only applies for competitive because I don't think Quick Play had a 5v5 mode ever. And if it was, then it was an arcade. But 5v5 is something that I just don't think is a good idea for Overwatch. There's too many characters with shields. And I know they kind of they tried to mitigate that issue by only limiting the teams to 2 tanks. And they did this in 6v6 too, which that's my other issue, which we'll get to in a minute. But just all of the manufactured changes all the changes in order to manufacture kind of what they wanted to do in the game, but it just didn't work. So that's my qualm with the 5v5 is that they forced too many things with it. I think it could have worked if they had, 1, had it in the game from the beginning, and then 2, maybe with 5v5 kind of released it just in an arcade mode, or had a separate just thing in quick play for it. Yeah, that's just my opinion on that. Another thing that I have a really strong opinion about in Overwatch that I really miss is the assault maps. So assault maps used to be in the game. The assault maps that I remember playing were, my favorites at least, were Horizon Lunar Colony, Temple of Anubis, Volskaya Industries. Then we also had Paris and it was a Japanese map. They have it in the game now. It's just a little bit different. Oh, I'm blanking. What is it called? Hanamura. That's what it's called. Hanamura, Horizon Lunar Colony, Paris, and then the other 2 that I said. I don't remember what they were. They've been out of the game for so long. And honestly, I loved assault maps. They were great when Overwatch had them in the game. Apparently, so many people had an issue with them that they decided to take it out of the game permanently and add push maps and flashpoint maps. Push maps and flashpoint maps are a map type where both of them kind of involve going to fight different points in the actual match itself. And the issue that I have with that is that where I play, which is kind of lower tier because I just don't have enough time to play and climb and comp, is a lot of people don't know how to fight the point. And the issue with that is that you lose if you don't actually play the objective. So it might not matter in quick play, but on competitive where you have higher stakes, that's something that I care about a lot. And you get a lot of teams that just don't know how to touch the point, which result in a lot of C9s, especially nowadays where you have more difficult maps to play. Another issue that I wanted to speak on was no locks on more than 2 tanks, which I kind of mentioned this before. But back in the original Overwatch, there were no locks on tanks. So if you wanted to play 3 tanks or 4 tanks, 2 healers, or 3 tanks, 1 DPS, 1 healer, 3 tanks, 1 DPS, 2 healers, you could do that. But right now, how they have it in competitive is you can only play 2 tanks. You cannot pick a third, and I believe you should be able to play if you wanted to. You could play 2 tanks, or not 2 tanks, 1 tank, but you'd have to swap it out with either a healer or a DPS. So I just have that qualm because there's really no reason to lock heroes or lock roles. Then it just makes it more difficult. You have less people playing, which resulted in the issue we had back like during Overwatch 2 when it was first announced. Essentially, people didn't want to play when Roki was announced. People didn't want to play anything besides DPS. So for a while, and you can see right now in this match, like this diva just walked off point because I don't know why, but they just lost the point over it. Getting back on the two tanks thing it's just annoying. I don't like it when Overwatch or any game for that fact locks heroes. I just think it kind of takes away from the game. That's really all there is to that. The biggest thing personally besides the assault maps being taken out is the loot boxes / progression just being removed altogether from the game. Now they have loot boxes now in the game, but before in Overwatch, like, you used to have levels, which that's another thing I wanted to speak on, was the levels. They removed those as well. They used to have levels, and with the levels, every time you gained a level, you get a loot box. Now I think they have a system where you can gain loot boxes, but it's just not the same. I don't like it as much. I want them to bring back levels because it was progression. Like, it gave you an incentive to actually play. So you could see, like, oh shit, I have a level 600 on my team. Like, this dude's gonna pull up. So, that honestly, like, right when Overwatch 2 got announced and we started playing it, Curtis and I, that was a huge thing that I was like, oh man, they ruined the game. So, the next thing I wanted to speak on was time in between competitive seasons. So right now, there's no time in between competitive seasons whatsoever. You just load in from one competitive season into the next one, and they've even made that worse by just throwing in all the new characters that they release into the new season without having like a season break and then releasing them in the next season. Which I think that specific method of doing things is just not a good idea, because people don't know how to play the character properly or the new characters properly, and you have people picking the characters that they really don't know how to play, which leads to, again, comp matches being lost and people not taking it serious. So, just going back to the loot boxes thing real quick, I want to talk on one other thing, and that is the sharking from Blizzard of these loot boxes. So, originally, like, you could buy loot boxes in Overwatch, the original Overwatch. You just buy loot boxes. If you wanted to buy 10 loot boxes, you could do that. If you wanted to buy 15 loot boxes, I think you could do that. 20, 25, and then 50, I think. And then I believe there was a 100 pack for loot boxes. Don't quote me on that, but I think you could buy 100 loot boxes for like $50. And you could do that during the events, and like that's like when Blizzard would make their money, because they'd release new skins on the event days, and people would just buy the Overwatch loot box bundles and then get whatever they wanted from that. And if they didn't get what they wanted, they could just purchase it through coins, which event skins cost 3,000, I think. They still, I think, do, or cost just a different currency, just entirely. But it used to be a better system, because now, like, they have the shop itself, which was released when Overwatch 2 was released. And the issue with the shop is that you can only buy like one skin now, versus you can only buy one skin versus just like buying a bunch of loot boxes and then possibly getting, 15, 20 different skins along with a bunch of coins to buy whatever skin you didn't get. So that was just kind of a big thing that I also didn't like, because I actually did buy some loot boxes if there was like a skin that I really wanted. So it kind of just sucked having to buy the skin outright. And then they priced the skins at like, I think it was like $10 a skin or $20 a skin for a legendary. It was crazy. It was ridiculous. I didn't like that too much. I think that was a turning point for Blizzard when they really got greedy. And yeah, I mean, I don't understand why they did that, but they have a system that's better now because you can buy the skins, yes, but there's also progression back in the game, so it doesn't make it as bad. Moving on to the next thing, I do like that they have a focus on improving the game back to how it, sorry, this was in the category of what made Overwatch good. I liked before how they had a focus on improving the games through updates that they released in the game. Like, they listen to the community, they, you know, if they had an issue with like a broken character or a broken ability, they would fix that pretty quickly. And don't get me wrong, they're doing that now. It's just, I feel like they listen more to the community and the actual qualms of the gameplay back during Overwatch 1. And not during Overwatch 2. They were more focused on the Overwatch League, making changes based on their requests, which I get, because that's what actually makes money. It's what actually gets people interested in the game. But still. And then, yeah, that was just the biggest thing. I think when companies don't listen to the players to play the game all the time, then you get a disconnect from the people who are playing the game all the time and the devs of the game. Because, let's be honest, a lot of devs of the game don't actually play the game. And they might get a lot of hardcore like devs, especially for Overwatch. But like, I just think overall that there are a lot of devs nowadays in the Overwatch 2 era, or when it was Overwatch 2, that didn't actually play, and they kind of just updated the game and then said, alright, well that's it. Let's wait till the next update. And yeah, like I said, there's just a disconnect when game companies do that. Just gonna take this one real quick, and then we'll move on to the next kind of topic that I wanted to touch on. Perfect. So, the next set of topics that I wanted to talk on was more of the fall of Overwatch. So we talked about the rise of Overwatch when Overwatch was in its peak. That was Overwatch, the original Overwatch 1. Now we're going to talk about the fall of Overwatch and some of the things that they introduced into the game that made it as bad as it is today, and that made it so that they need to fix Overwatch. First thing is push and flashpoint maps. We already touched a little bit on that earlier, but you know, just recap. Push and flashpoint maps both suck. I'm not trying to. Actually, let me change Q here. Cancel search. So yeah, I'm not a fan of push maps or flashpoint maps. As you guys know, I like the assault maps, and if they're going to remove, or if they're going to add different map types, right? If they're going to add push and flashpoint, keep assault maps in, because like, I get it, assault maps are difficult for some players, I guess, but that will balance it out if you have push maps and assault and flashpoint maps in there. It doesn't make sense to get rid of a whole map type, because people who are not good at push maps, not good at flashpoint maps, like the average Overwatch player who's playing in silver, playing in gold, who doesn't really fight the point, that's a problem. And you know, it just keeps players who are better, who get bad teams, stuck in the lower levels. I stifled progression. That's another thing that we talked about, just like with the loot boxes, the levels. Okay. Yeah, loot boxes and the levels, I think, was the biggest thing that we touched on. There's really no reason that they needed to remove it. Levels showed kind of your progress and how much you've played the game. And I mean, I felt a little bit better when I was paired with someone who is level 600 or 700 with like crazy banners, rather than a level 15 or a 60. You know, maybe that's why they did it, because they also removed with the progression the what was it? The MVP. So they had like an MVP category, and they also removed point time. They had an MVP category that went to one player of the game, and you could vote on, I think, who got MVP, or maybe it was just like based on stats. I don't remember exactly. I think it was based on stats. But every single match at the end, they would give one player out of the 6 the MVP title. And it didn't really do anything. I think it gave you like extra XP, but it, you know, just shouted out the person who actually did the most work on the map. And I missed that because, you know, either Curtis or I would get it back in the day, or, you know, you get the occasional person who would pull up. But it just kind of, it seems weird that they would remove that, because I want to give props to the people on my team who are pulling up, you know. Removing the objective time metric, so that there used to be a little like icon at the bottom that said, oh, you have this much objective time, your teammate has this much objective time, your other teammate has this much objective time. And that was good because it showed who was actually like doing the objective, or who was on the objective, which again, nowadays Overwatch players do not fight the objective in lower tiers like at all. So you get push maps, flashpoint maps, and it's just a pain to fight those.
Like the best team in the solar system.
Making individual skins. So, or making individual skins purchasable and then making them extremely expensive. We touched on a little bit. Removal of medals is another thing. So back in the day, they also had a medal system: gold, bronze, gold, silver, and bronze. And basically, that was just showing your metric based on other players who you're playing with, and how they were doing. So if you had gotten the most kills, then you'd be golden kills. If you got the most, you know, damage mitigation, and I think you'd have the gold in that. It was just another way to just like shout people out for specific things. I liked it. I don't know why they removed it again. Removing levels we already talked about. Added 5v5. That is something we touched on earlier as well, but again, just to bring it up and recap, 5v5 I think should not have been brung into Overwatch in the first place, just because it seems kind of redundant when you have so many characters. And not only that, but damn, I'm not playing well with Winston right now. Not only so many characters, but you had so many like characters with shields, which makes it difficult to break through if you don't have the right comp. So yeah, then you have making changes based on the Overwatch League community and not the actual community itself, which we talked on that a little bit. I think that when you listen specifically to the Overwatch League community, yes, you have some good input, but it's not like you're not listening from all players of the spectrum. Like when Overwatch was listening to the community, when you had Jeff in there, oh my god, dude, jeez, when you had Jeff in there, you know, they were listening more to all levels of the community, the higher player levels, the lower player levels, and everybody in between. I think that was good because, you know, lower player levels are also playing the game too, and you know, they're not as good. There might be some changes that a lower level player might see that a higher level player doesn't. And ultimately, I think that, you know, again, they're just not listening to a part of the community when they only listen to one part, being the Overwatch League. But enough on that topic specifically. Enough on that topic. I think that Overwatch can get back to the glory days when they were popping off back in 2016 through 2020. And the ways that they can do that, I think they're taking a few steps in the right direction so far. One, by, you know, all the changes that they've made, and we're going to go over those. So I've made a list of changes that I like that they actually did make recently. and direction that I think that they should go in. So they've steered clear of going woke, which that's always good for companies, especially video games, because you have like a small player base, unless you're talking about like Animal Crossing or like Pokeopia or like one of those games that like are farming or Stardew Valley or something like that. You have a high percentage of players that actually play like more high octane games like Overwatch. Like you don't really see people who are woke playing this game, and if you do, it's the small minority, the vocal minority, but the small minority. What I think that they could do to bring Overwatch 2 back to its roots is well, not what I think that they should do, is what I think that they have done that helped is removing the Overwatch 2 logo and kind of bringing it back to the original. So whenever a game kind of does like a 2 or a movie does a 2 or a 3, it always kind of takes away from the original. Like, for example, how many movies can you name that have a good sequel to it, right? Maybe Toy Story, maybe like John Wick, but like everything other than that, you get like a Fast and Furious 7. It's all the same thing. You get you get like some of these whack, like Inside Out 2, right? I've never actually seen that movie, so I can't speak on that. But typically movies that are like sequels don't do as good as the original. And I think that also was the case for Overwatch. And they did a weird kind of rebranding originally when they made it Overwatch 2. They like released it as a new game instead of just an update, and then they made it free where all players originally had to pay. Like it was weird. I didn't like it too much. So like the original release of Overwatch 2 or the rebranding just was done very poorly. I think it could have been done better, but it was a really good change nonetheless. Revamping old maps is something that they've been doing. I don't know if you guys seen the actually this map right here, Watch by Gibraltar. At the beginning, they made a couple of changes, and you can kind of see a few changes here in the map. Like you can actually walk onto that spaceship from the opposite side. The bridge was taken out in the front, and you can just access a couple more areas that you were not able to on this map basically the entire time that this map has been in existence, which I like. I think that keeping maps fresh definitely keeps the fan base on their toes, because you have to relearn the map a little bit. That's really all I have to say about that. Rebranding the map, or revamping the map. The next thing I would have to say that I liked as a change that I think Blizzard took a step in the right direction of is the rank resets. So it didn't benefit me, but I did notice it, and it was beneficial for the community to rank reset for competitive. So usually what they do is they just like set you have to like redo placement matches, and they place you somewhere around where you had placed the last season. But I guess this year they're doing something different where you can place, and where you place gets reset. So if like you were in platinum, let's just say, it's going to be reset, and you might be able to replace in diamond or grandmaster if you have like really good placement matches. I placed a bit lower than where I was the previous season, so it didn't really do much for me. But ultimately, I do think the rank resets are a good thing. They force you to requalify basically every single competitive season, which was good back in the day when the competitive seasons were longer, but now that they're a little bit shorter, I don't know. I think that they should bring it back to being like 3 months at a time, the competitive seasons, and then at the same time, they can rank reset every single season. because of the length of it. I also think that adding a bunch of new characters helps. It refreshes the game, makes things a little bit more interesting, more new. And that's basically there is on that. And basically, all in all, I hope that all the changes will be able to... Come on. So, hopefully with all these changes, we'll be able to actually see comprehensive, more comprehensive changes in the future. Damn it. And I think that Blizzard actually is taking steps in the right direction by changing certain things in their game. Do I think they have a lot more to go? Yes, absolutely. I think that they can change, again, some of the things that I've talked about in this episode already, but also, you know, quality of life things, like the menu. I think the new menu looks a little bit cluttered. There was a post on X that I had seen that said, it took me about 20 minutes to figure out how to start quick play, which is funny because I had the same exact experience. I was playing quick play, and I mean, I just uploaded. What's the word I'm looking for? I updated. That's the word I'm looking for. Not upgraded. I updated my game the day that Overwatch kind of went back to Overwatch 1 from the rebranding, and I had like about 20, maybe not 25, but like 15 minutes where I couldn't find it either. So it's just a funny post. I got a lock in here. I'm just rambling now. I just let that happen. That Widowmaker let that happen. That's crazy. Also, I think a good change would be removing Widowmaker. No, I'm just joking. But that was kind of my Overwatch 0 to Hero discussion. I wanted to do a couple of quick play matches while I talked about how Overwatch used to be really good back in 2016 through 2022. And then when they upgraded it, kind of fell off. And now it's better. Hopefully, we'll see more changes in the near future that make Overwatch even better and bring it back to the original. But who knows? Onran's face being changed definitely kind of saltied that, because that was the first thing that they changed back when the game had went from Overwatch 2 to Overwatch 1 in the rebranding, the second rebranding. But that's all I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys for watching, hearing my ramblings. I'm gonna go grab myself a drink because I'm out this drive from speaking for 45 minutes straight on Overwatch. If you guys enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't already. This is Wander, and I am out. See you guys next time. Peace.